high-level enthusiasts, marketers, and SaaSpreneurs. It's JB here, and you're tuned in to the podcast that's all about taking your high-level game to new heights. Each week, we bring in industry experts who dive into strategies. They talk about driving success specifically for high-level users, whether it's getting more customers, leveling up your knowledge, or supercharging your high level with new strategies. We've got you covered. Today's episode is all about the best way to use royalty-free music in video production and advertising. And today I'm joined by Sebastian Jaeger, the founder of Filmstro. Sebastian and his team specialize in royalty-free music that you can customize either for your ads or your website or for your clients. And as we know, our clients rely on us to have everything set up properly as we either launch their ads or we put content on their sites. So Sebastian and I put together 3 important discussions that we want to have within this subject. And the first one revolves around royalty-free music explained. Sebastian's going to discuss a little bit about the license types, which is the best one for your project, and then a little bit about how to go about royalties or royalty-free music. The next will be a little bit about compliance 101, how to avoid copyright infringement, getting things taken down, and just the frustration that your client may go through because somebody's reaching out to them instead of you about the video, audio that you're using. And then lastly is post-production time savers, how to ensure the music is suitable for the project. And that really deals with changing the length, adding a little bit more up-tempo, just the details that maybe any music that you come across doesn't have, but now you get to add. And any unwanted sounds, right? Any styles that you may not like. So Sebastian and I are fully prepared to give you all the value you need. As always, we appreciate you joining us. Sebastian, it's great to have you on the show. Welcome. How are you?
Good. Very well, John. Yeah, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Yeah, man. So, we've been going back and forth here. And the great news is, I caught you almost by accident where you just got launched on the app marketplace with Filmstro. And you have a product that's a little bit of like a hidden gem where people know they need great music, but they almost don't know where to go. It's almost like back in the day with like stock art and photo art. Like we got educated really quick in the industry that you just can't grab any photo and use it. And now we're evolving that way with music, whether it's on social media, websites, or, out and about. Do you mind sharing a little bit about those that may not know you, a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what inspired you to get into this space?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm a UK-based composer originally, so music is my background, and I was writing for all kinds of projects. So, BBC stuff for TV, a lot of blue chip and kind of high-end prestige client work for kind of branded content, be that, I don't know, the Olympics or Formula One or Johnny Walker and things like that. And I saw that there was definitely a pain point around music and discussions around music. So even people who are using music day in, day out and working with people like me, so having bespoke custom music created for their projects, there was still this difficulty around how to explain things about music, how to, really get down to kind of translating what a visual creator's got in their mind, what the emotion is they want for their film, be that a branded ad or a long form piece or whatever it might be, and then talking to a composer to try and get them to actually give them exactly what they want. So I kind of, and I guess when I was working in this area as well, I noticed, of course, there's this big swing towards using stock stuff. You mentioned, stock images and kind of stock stuff. And of course, stock is massive now. And it's definitely had an impact on the music industry as well. So there were more projects where people were kind of saying, oh, we're going to use stock. But then the pain point kind of doubles because suddenly they're like, oh, now we have to look for stuff. Never mind that it's difficult talking to a composer about music. Now you've actually got to just start from scratch and find the stuff. So I was really interested with that and did something where I was experimenting with things and talking to my colleagues at the time who were like directors and screenwriters and people like that. And I was experimenting with this idea that what if you had a piece of music that you could give to the client and then the client themselves could actually make the changes. So rather than having to go back to the composer and be like, oh, hey, can you, get rid of that trumpet or make those violins a bit faster or whatever it might be, or can you change the mood to be a bit more this, that, and the other? Just kind of go, look, here's the thing. It's close enough. This is basically what you asked for. And you can now be your own change agent and make those tweaks, those last tweaks.
And we find that like today more frequently, customers, clients, agency owners, marketers, they want the flexibility to play with what they have. Like, even though it could be perfect with your experience, your knowledge, and what you believe, they just want to make a tweak just to make it theirs. And we see
Yeah.
that with different programs, art programs, and even, music editor programs. Now, in your experience, being a, professional in the industry before it was cool to create music, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was the transition that you witnessed as royalty-free music or music in general became more popular for captivating attention?
Well, yeah, that's a big one. I guess the thing that really shifted was the sense that a creative individual who is not musical can have an equal say in the music. I think there really has been a more of a kind of democratization, because as the stock industry has grown, people have realized that they can just go and help themselves to kind of off the shelf music. And therefore suddenly it's like, well, it's my choice what I put on here. I don't need a music supervisor. I'm my own supervisor now. I get to choose the music that goes on my project. So I think there's a sense that clients now are ultimately more discerning, which is slightly ironic because, of course, if they're not working with the composer, well, they can't actually make the changes to the music, but at least they feel a sense of ownership because they're the ones choosing the track. They're looking for the thing, and they're waiting until they find the right thing to put on their project. So I think there's a sense of a shift in ownership, and a shift in kind of feeling that they can do nearly everything, I guess. I think that's a big change.
I agree. I feel like, again, you're the actual professional in the space. So I know this is maybe a double pack question that we can go on just in its own topic, right? Because there's respective opinions around, who should have the final say, and the amount of BPMs or tempo really doesn't match what you think it matches. So I think what we want to, the point I guess you and I want to make across to our audience is that you can be creative as much as you want, right? It could be what you want it to be, but let it be the right way done, right?
Yes.
Because the last thing you want is to get into infringement and issues that not only embarrasses you or your client, but could be hefty fines. I mean, there are composers and artists out there that are making it their full-time focus to find people using and abusing their music unregistered.
Absolutely. Yeah. So taking a step back, I guess, looking at that first point you made about, what is royalty-free music? How does that differ to other types of music out there? And how can people use it safely? I think so. The first thing to say straight off the bat is if a large TV production company is commissioning me to write a bespoke piece of music, that is categorically not royalty-free at that point, just to make that clear to everybody. If a piece of music is written custom made for a particular project that is dedicatedly aimed to be on TV or theatrical or other kind of radio, for example, or even some of the big AAA games, that now is what you would call, well, you certainly wouldn't call it royalty-free music. The issue with music of that nature, of that caliber, or that pedigree, if you like, is that there are definitely royalties that are payable, but again, what I want to definitely kind of just bust a myth here and just kind of get a misconception away from people. Typically, those aren't royalties that are paid by the person who asked for the music. So that TV production company who says, hey, Sebastian, give us, this, that, and the other for this show we've got for TV. I give them the music. That piece of music then goes on that TV show. And it's actually then the broadcaster who pays an annual flat fee to all of the performance societies around the world, the performing rights organizations, they're called. So every country has their own. In America, you guys have got BMI and ASCAP. In the UK, we have PRS, for example. And those organizations then go and collect the royalties that are owed to their composers that they represent. So I would then get royalties paid to me via my local performing rights organization, because the broadcaster paid money anyway. They pay a blanket fee to use music. So in actual fact, the funniest thing about royalty-free versus not royalty-free music is, yes, there is music where royalties are absolutely paid, but that actually doesn't ever concern the person making that initial purchase, or very, very rarely. So the thing you've got to look out for there is the music, are there mechanical rights that are attached to it, or is it free from mechanical rights? And I think that's the piece, although that sounds difficult and a bit complicated and confusing. What nowadays is called royalty-free music is essentially music that has no mechanical rights attached to it. what we call non-MCPS. So if you go to a music library which doesn't officially say this is royalty free, then what happens is there are basically mechanical rights that need to be paid wherever that music is played. And sometimes, if that's for, say, not broadcast, so not for TV, then yes, the agency, the TV production company could get stung by having something extra to pay.
I understand a little bit better than what I did before. And it's one of those things where, in my personal experience, I just figured I'm going to use something really quick and nobody will know. And what's the likelihood of me getting called out?
Sure.
And I want to just preface what we're going to say moving forward is that, nor High Level or Sebastian is giving you any, action advice or telling you to do this a certain way. This is just all informational for you to then do your research in your region, your country, your state, your industry, whatever the case may be. Just use this as information that you can pick up and go from there for further research. So you covered a little bit about the royalty-free music explained as a whole. Tell me what that means for a marketer or for an agency owner. What are some things they should be aware of to do further research and due diligence on their own?
Absolutely. So if you go to any royalty-free music platform that specifically mentions the word royalty-free, then it definitely means that you are good to go. So that is me making a blanket statement, which I'm very, very happy to stand behind, because that is safe to say. So it essentially means that what you see is what you get on that platform. So a little bit like, let's take another example. So, any Getty images or Shutterstock images, something like that. You know what you're getting. You're going, okay, I'm going to buy this photo. I'm going to use it for the license terms in here. Now that's important. I'll circle back to that in a minute, license term. And with music, again, because music is a kind of quite an archaic, industry, there's quite a lot of different copyright law involved and all the things like that. That's why there is, it's a little bit more complex than other industries perhaps, especially like, actual goods. If you buy, if you buy a new bathroom, you pay once, you got your new bathroom. If you buy music, the weird thing is, in the TV world, etc., I might write a piece of music. The TV production company will pay me once, sure, but then every single time that music is played on that TV show, I still get paid more, which is kind of weird. That would be like your plumber installing your bathroom, and then every time you use the shower, you've got to pay that plumber, right? So being a musician is great. I'm not complaining. Royalties are fantastic, and they do help. But as far as marketers, TV production companies, agency owners, SaaSpreneur, all of the guys on Go High Level, there's never an issue if the platform you're buying from says it's royalty free, because you're only paying one time. But to get to, I think, what you were saying about what's the safest way and what's the right way to do it for people, and to kind of maybe point them in the direction of more research, the key difference between music and other things that you're purchasing is it all comes down to what is it that you want to do with that music? Where is that music actually destined for? And that's where, when you're looking on these platforms, Filmstray included, we explain where you might want to use that music for. And that's why we actually have different tiers and different pricing, which is, again, a kind of a weird concept for people maybe initially to get their heads around. It's like, hang on, this is the same piece of music. Why is it cheaper if I want to use it for this, but it's more expensive if I want to use it for this? Again, the bathroom doesn't cost you more just because you want to have 5 showers a day. Do you know what I mean? So it's a weird one, but we break that down really nicely. Most platforms do. And so what I would advise people to do is just to kind of think, there's a couple of really easy tests. One is it for personal use or not? That's an immediate, like, really clear line. A lot of companies, a lot of platforms have really, really affordable plans for people who just want to use the music for personal use. And they define that really well. It's kind of obvious. It's stuff like, hey, it's on your own website. It's on your, maybe it's on your social media, and it's your family snaps, whatever. But then there's the kind of commercial side of things. And that, again, often tips into two distinct areas. One is it's online. So you want to use the music for something online. That's then one very, very specific use case and price bracket. And then the next one, which I've already kind of talked about, is you want to use the music for TV, or you want to use it in theatrical, which, again, let's be honest, it might not be most of the people listening to this. I don't know how, they might be working on some amazing show that then gets picked up and some distributor or network buys it. And suddenly they're thinking, oh, damn, did I get that music cleared for use on TV? Which is great. You can just come back and then change the license. That's quite a standard thing to do. But to finish this point off, I would just say, figure out what it is you want the music for. If it's for your Facebook ads, if it's for LinkedIn, kind of promotional stuff, if it's for your client's YouTube channel for their kind of, ads and things like that. That's your online kind of ad space, and that will be a particular license then.
Yep. And then what I'm thinking is, a good handful of our users, customers, agency owners, they're looking to put a Facebook ad or Instagram ad up, and they're not really a fan of the music that's attached available right now in the library. So they want something a little bit more catchy, maybe with some sound effects. So just to confirm, if I'm in that situation and I go to a website that says royalty free, how do I protect myself, or what do I do if somebody says, oh no, that music you're using is not authorized to use? You have to think about licensing terms. What should I be copying and pasting or screenshotting or saving just to, cover my ends?
Yeah, good point. Again, that's a really, really good point, John. I think a lot of people nowadays have, again, this slightly mistaken sense that as long as they credit who the music originally belongs to, then they're fine. And that's okay if it's just your personal life. Like, you can go ahead and take, any piece of music from YouTube, say, or, spot it and stick it on your YouTube channel. And then, if you want to put the credit in, you can in the description. But here's what's going to happen. The monetization of your YouTube video, because you've used music essentially incorrectly. Well, I don't want to say illegally, because actually, if it were completely legal, they would lock you down anyway, and you wouldn't be able to do it. But the actual fact of the matter is that you can put music on your YouTube video, for example, that isn't cleared for use. However, the system that's in place, which is very, very clever, ensures that those big record labels that music belongs to, you don't even know who it belongs to half the time, potentially anyway. You're just going, oh, I love this song, I'm going to put that on my next video. Well, when you go ahead and try and monetize that video, you're not going to be seeing that money. The record label who owns that song, they will get the money. So there's a kind of, and that's been, by the way, that's been a huge shift. So a few years ago, as soon as you put that music on there, let's say, I don't know, a famous Taylor Swift song or something, you would have got an immediate strike. And, after 3 strikes, I sit there, close your channel. That's actually changed. So things have kind of improved. But the way they do it now is, I guess, the powers that be have decided, well, look, instead of being punitive against like literally thousands or millions of people putting music up on their thing which doesn't belong to them, why don't we just take the money away? So now, in this example, Taylor Swift publisher would receive the monetization from the video if you've put her music on there. So I think the key thing here is, if you're doing a video for yourself professionally or for your client, clearly you're going to want to keep that monetization. And you also don't want to be writing stuff in the credits, which basically says, hi, I kind of ripped this song off and it doesn't belong to me. It's just not very professional.
I agree with you. And we've got a little bit in depth on this process because it is important to set the foundation. It is important to at least bring awareness around that there are entities, there are platforms, there are people that are protecting the rights of the music they created, they purchased, or they have a responsibility over. So, to our audience, we appreciate your patience kind of just walking through the understanding of this, because it's not the most funnest or intriguing part of it all. But once you know what you know, you can unknow it. And this is one of those things that you just need to be aware of to search and protect yourself and your clients very early on, especially if you do a lot of ads, if you become very creative with your ads and you're trying to stand out with different music styles or even sound effects. I mean, anything with music or sound effects falls in there. So I want to pivot a little bit here, Sebastian, if we can, is now that our audience knows what they know, how could you give them a little bit of a better direction on how they can start to navigate this to use royalty-free music, or properly purchase or look out for those who have the rights to it so they can have the great ads and protect their clients and themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. So the really simple answer is, without, I don't want to get into a sales pitch, of course, and I'm just going to keep saying stock music platforms, ourselves included.
So in this case, if you don't mind, Sebastian, you have a unique service that you offer. It's in our app marketplace. I invited you on because this is a topic that comes up with copyright, and it's very, very serious. Even at high level, we go through a process to make sure that our music even though we buy it from a royalty-free music source, that it's
Yeah.
extra confirmed that
Yeah.
everything is right.
Yeah.
So could you just share a little bit? And I know you're not the type to sales pitch anybody, absolutely not. But could you share a little bit about what's unique about the talents you have, what you've created into a program to make that boring or maybe not so intriguing royalty-free music into something that they've been wanting?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I guess the just to before I get into the kind of that nitty-gritty bit, the easy answer is you've got to look for the phrase YouTube cleared, for example, or cleared for social media, and that's what we absolutely guarantee. So, for us and other platforms out there, there's this wonderful system which is called Content ID, where basically all of our music is already known to those platforms. So, if you want to put your music on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, whatever, well, actually, in the background, those platforms are checking what the music is, and then it basically cross references and goes, "Oh, well, this is Filmstro music. You're good to go. No problem here," because when you purchase a license from us, it's just cleared for those uses. And what's even better is we then whitelist your social channels. So if you wanted to go ahead and get a music on your YouTube channel, for example, we would actually just get your channel, whitelist it, and now any music from Filmstar it's ever put on there, it's just automatically cleared. No strikes, no claims, no nothing. So that's kind of how that works. Yeah.
So important. And so, now I find, let's say, like, for example, I find this, hip hop, EDM style beat, and I'm like, this is awesome. I
Yeah.
want to make some tweaks to it. If this was like a piece of artwork, I'd maybe put it into Canva or put it into Adobe or put it into an editor, and I'd make some tweaks to it. What or how is the best is a way to do that with what you do, what you
Sure. Yeah, sure. And this is the best bit for me, obviously, because this is what I'm passionate. I love what we've created at Filmstro. It's kind of tricky to bring across in words, of course, but I'll give it my best shot. So basically, in Filmstro, we have this thing where the DNA of every single piece of music is the same. Like, I'm just going to put that out there. So from a musical point of view, every single piece of music in the world shares certain things. And we've boiled those things down to 3 parameters that you, the filmmaker, or you, the creative, you, the visual person, without musical experience, can basically manipulate. So one is, for example, we call it momentum. So if you want that music to go from, say, quite calm, quite laid back, to more busy and complex and a bit more up tempo, you just move the momentum up. If the next one is depth. So again, if you have something that's got no depth, it's kind of quite thin, quite ethereal, quite kind of soft and gentle. Bring in more depth, it becomes fuller, lower, has a bit more kick to it, that kind of thing. And then the last one is power. It's super simple. That's just, hey, you want to be more intense, maybe a bigger group of players, as in the ensemble size, suddenly it's like, whoa. So that's how all music essentially works. It doesn't matter whether it's classical, hip hop, EDM, jazz, raga, who cares? That's what music is. And we've basically built that into every single one of our tracks. So that's kind of the most fun thing people can do. And then we have some time savers as well. So, for example, the thing that we find that a lot of filmmakers have been saying to us over the years is like, oh, we wish we could just make this piece a little bit longer, a bit shorter, because our video, is, let's say, 60 seconds, but we found a great track, which is 80 seconds. So now there's 20 seconds just sloshing around. And of course, people know how to just about chop stuff up in their video editing programs and things like that. But we've just made that just completely ridiculously simple. So now whenever you open a track in Filmstro, if you've added your video as well, it just automatically says, hey, do you want to make this music the same length as your video? And you're done. So that, things like that.
And I know that was hard for you to share because you're like, look, I don't want to come off as I'm trying to sell something and that's not your style. Sure. And it's like you said, it's so hard to really describe, let alone have someone visualize what you offer. And, it's almost like for an exchange because, look, there's a lot of people that don't take royalty of music seriously. They don't believe they can be, highlighted as someone who's using it incorrectly. And the last thing we want is for someone within our community to experience something that we couldn't give them a proactive heads up on. So sure. This is very passionate for me to say, hey, look, let's go over these kind of rules of the land with using music, and then we'll plug in an example by showcasing the magic you put. Now, with what you've created, could you share a little bit about when someone is looking to add that creativity and finding their ads and then finding the right music, what's the best way to like couple like whether it's BPMs, is it like, what's the art, or can you share some advice around like music and advertisements? Like, is there like a 3 points that you could share around that for a newbie, right? Like,
Yeah, sure.
royalty-free music. I just want something that's going to be catchy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. I think there's a lot of stuff now where we have to appreciate that people are probably using music as the first thing in their creative process to then cut their video to, just to get a bit of that pace, a bit of a sense of, well, where I've got this assembly, all this amazing footage I went and shot, whatever. Now I want to turn it into a really tight 30-second ad. Well, where's my pulse? I need something. So we have to acknowledge the fact that, yes, people are looking for music as their kind of like initial inspiration, just to maybe get started on that edit. So for that, I would suggest, again, say it's Filmstro, for sake of argument. With Filmstro, you can basically take any piece of our music and you can basically set the settings so that it's at its kind of maximum kind of in your face, which gives you a really, really strong pulse. Once you've laid that down, you can then go ahead and go, well, hang on, now I want to actually just like make sure the music is only 30 seconds. Okay, let's do that. Bang, done. Then maybe there's a couple of sounds in there you don't like. You go, okay, let's remove those. Done. And then it gets fun because now you've got your assembly, the BPM's already in there, but now you can go ahead and change that momentum, change the depth, change the power to kind of just emphasize and accentuate those important kind of beats and extra kind of things in that narrative. Even though it's only 30 seconds, it's still a narrative. And you can just amazingly get close to that. It's as if a composer has written it for you. And BPM is only one part of that puzzle. Like, it's amazing how you don't have to hit every single kind of sync point or cut or edit change with a strong beat. It's actually more about use the track to begin with, do your initial assembly, and then you can fine tune it like a composer would. And it works. It's hand in glove. It's really quite remarkable.
Yeah. And you mentioned momentum, depth, and power, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Are those terms specific to Filmstro, or are those terms that are used universally within the music?
What we've tried to do is, short answer, no, they're Filmstro. Well, I mean, they're obviously ordinary English terms. We've appropriated them for Filmstro to talk about music specifically for those people who haven't got a musical background technically. Because the problem is that if I were to speak musical jargon to you, we'd immediately have a lost in translation problem, and vice versa. Actually, when visual creatives brief in like a music brief to a composer, quite often the composer's sort of sitting there scratching his head, going, I'm not sure what they meant by organic, or can you make it more, loose? Or what does that mean? So that's, I think, why we wanted to kind of come up with 3 terms, which in a really direct, and again, without demonstrating this with you here, it's obviously hard, but anyway, 3 terms which, when you use them, there's an immediate one-to-one relationship where you go, okay, I see what happened there.
Yeah. And so, for those that are watching this live, comment below momentum on the below in the comments. Type in momentum. And I think for what you've been kind enough to do, Sebastian, you're going to put together, you've put together a demo that you're going to attach in the link in the description here, that if somebody were to click on that link, they can see a demo, learn more about it, and really see for themselves. Because like you said, although music is for the ears, it is a visual for the program on how you adjust and you see how that musical tone is.
Yeah, and that's another thing we've worked really hard to make sure that we do everything in a really intuitive visual way. So where, like, up until now, filmmakers or content creators, can only see a waveform, that's kind of arbitrary. That only shows you the kind of main peaks of where the music goes strong or not. That's just an amplitude thing. It doesn't really give you that much information. Whereas with our program, we've essentially allowed the filmmaker to just to draw, literally draw with a pen tool the kind of shape of the music, and then they can actually just see it. They immediately go, oh, look, that's where the power goes up, this is where the momentum changes. So yeah, we want to make it really, really visual to kind of break through that barrier of it only being auditory, because to visual people, the auditory thing is kind of not, it's harder to penetrate.
Yeah. If you're excited with what you're hearing, with the control that you can have with royalty-free music, doing things just within the respects of the industry, go ahead and type in depth below. Type in depth below. And I think the biggest thing here, Sebastian, is I'm looking at it from what I've known now with you. is if I find a trustworthy site that's out there, right? There's so many of them, right? There's so many
Sure.
different sites. Could you share a little bit about how you find maybe one or two sites that are out there, or how does like, or do you offer some sort of a gallery, of audio gallery to pick from? Like now that I know there's a tool out there to help me make this a wow factor and how I want it,
Hmm.
now where do I like? It's like scrolling, like death scroll. Like you're like
Yeah.
I've tried to look for music once or twice, and it's just such a long process.
Yeah, yeah. That is something that still is. It's kind of interesting now, actually, that you asked me that now, because AI is now having a really positive impact on that. I say positive. It's an interesting time. Put it that way. There are now some solutions which we actually experimented with as well, and we're going to come back to it when it's more mature, which is the prompting. I guess a lot of you guys listening to this will be familiar with the kind of prompting now for things like ChatGPT or Midjourney. These kind of visual prompt AI tools where you put in a prompt like, give me a, whatever, and the beauty is we've now got this natural language prompting AI algorithm stuff, which can do stuff like, for example, you might put in walking down a dusty road. That's all you have to do. You write walking down a dusty road, and I'm not kidding. The music you then get back is that kind of typical like backcountry, hot day. I can't tell you more than that because, of course, I'd have to play a piece of music now, and you go, oh my god, that is walking down a dusty road. So it's genius when it works. Cautionary tale because sometimes it spectacularly fails. So we weren't ready to take the leap with that, but we want to, because I think, like you said, doom scrolling through just like 100 tracks, listening to the first 5 seconds, that's a killer. And I think, again, without blowing our own trumpet, no pun intended, of course, that's something else we've kind of innovated on, because you can change the nature of what the music is. You don't have to wait for the end to hear the end, or you don't have to wait for the climax. You could just go, show me the climax. You just set it to be the climax, and you go, okay, I know if this is going to work or not. So it saves you time. Whereas with traditional music, you kind of have to go, well, there might have been a really good bit at, I don't know, 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Did you have the patience to wait that long and listen to it? No. So that's the other really sad thing. You might miss out on all these gems because you're just like, oh, next. Because if you don't like the beginning, how do you know if you're not going to like the end? So that's a real problem there.
It is. And, I've done it where on ChatGPT, I typed in, a set of lyrics or give me a song with this type of sentiment or this style, and it'll pull up a few songs. And I've done them in all different types of languages. And
Yep.
it's to your point, it's actually very impressive. So, with what we know now from compliance, proactive, be aware of, you've shared a little bit about your passion in music and how it's translated into this software service that you like pretty much came across high level by accident.
Yeah, it was actually one of your agency users is a Filmster customer, and then came to me and said, "Hey, I think the high level community would really benefit from this.
Yeah,
Have a
and
look."
that person, without mentioning names, is
Sure.
does a lot of ads. They're known in the community, and you just said, "I'll become a high level customer too, get into it," and then you started to use it for your business, which is exciting. But it's one of those things where you probably wouldn't have come across us or thought of the product fit if it
Mm,
wasn't for that introduction.
absolutely. Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things when we were speaking offline was you want to make this available for everyone without it being a penny pinching process.
Yeah.
So who can benefit from your expertise, your skills, your experience, and what you put into this product? Who could benefit from this?
So I think if I understand the question right, I think basically anybody who is an agency level user in your platform, in your community, can absolutely go and help themselves. Have a little look at the Filmstore listing in the marketplace there. There's some explainer stuff. There's quite a lot of information there as well, so they can really just take a deep dive before they commit. And then we have done it as a solution where it's available to sub accounts as well. So if the agency decide to go ahead, then I believe the process is that they would then have the option to also make it available to the sub accounts if they wish. So yeah, it's
Perfect. Now, question for you, for someone that is not experienced with this process, um, with your with what you do to educate, what's the best way for folks to learn within Filmstro? Do you have a community? Do you have a YouTube channel? What's the best way that you share these best practices if they want
Sure.
to be curious about it with understanding royalty-free music, compliance, and then
Yeah.
maybe checking out your product if,
Yeah.
that works out for them?
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean there's a YouTube channel with some tutorials, but it's actually everything is kind of quite tight in app as well. So in app you'll have one, that also works directly in high level, so you won't even have to go anywhere. So it's in your high level dashboard if you like. There's tutorials inside the app. There's kind of knowledge base link out from the app. And to be honest, it really is intuitive. Like there are three things you can do, which sounds so kind of simple, but it's absolute, like it feels like a toy, but it does a pro job. So it's dead
When you
simple.
showed me it, you're like, John, you just have to like see it. I'm like,
Yeah,
Masha, we just, John, you just have to see it. There's really no way to explain this till you see it.
yeah,
So
yeah,
we've included the link below so you could not do what I did and just say, well, just tell me, just
yeah.
see it for yourself. Sebastian, I want to make sure that we're giving as much value as we can. I'm going to give you about a minute or so here. If you were talking to an agency owner that reached out to you that they want to start the ads, they're a little hesitant because they don't want any problems for them or their clients. Could you just recap a few bullet points on
Sure.
the best way to at least know to go in the right direction?
Absolutely. So choose a platform that offers genuinely royalty-free music. Secondly, make sure you're choosing the license type that suits your project. So if you're doing online ads, make sure that in the description of that license that you're purchasing, it says things like cleared for online use, includes Facebook ads. That kind of language is what you're looking for to make sure it's good for ads. And then thirdly, you can reach out to the company directly and ask them, hey, do you guys have like YouTube protection? Is this stuff cleared for social media? Again, it typically will say that in the kind of on the kind of pricing details, there'll be those kind of key benefits. But if you're not sure, look in the FAQ, that kind of thing, because what you really want is you want your social channels, and more importantly, you want your client's social channels to be whitelisted, absolutely free from any hassles. Because like you said earlier in this call, the last thing you want as the agency owner is your client getting in touch with you going, hey, John, I thought this music was kosher and suddenly I'm getting this weird message from YouTube. What's going on? And that can all be avoided if you use, the right platform.
Yeah. And again, you can't speak for every country, every organization, everything, but what are some things that you can expect to be a potential risk if you break the rules, you're not conscious, you just kind of think that it can't be you that gets, in the middle of it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, absolutely never put music on any of your products, projects, whatever, if you haven't explicitly actually purchased a license to use it. That's obviously a massive no-no. If it's your holiday, photo montage from your personal holiday and it's on your personal YouTube channel, do whatever you like, because Time Warner or Universal Music or whoever that music belongs to that you've put on there, they will claim that money. So, you kind of maybe won't even notice because, hey, maybe, you probably haven't got many subscribers if it's just your personal YouTube. But if this is for a client, and suddenly they notice that their monetization was switched off because of something you did or didn't do, yeah, that's number one. Just don't use music unless you have a license for it.
So this is for specifically for personal use is fine, but it's the commercial use.
Correct.
And commercial could be anything that potentially could be monetized, that has a big following, that's for sale, for rent, some sort of solicitation to do business with you.
Absolutely.
And obviously, we encourage we want our audience to obviously speak with, be aware of your legal, rules and regulations and obviously get advice if you're a bigger company or you're working with a bigger company to follow the right processes. And then if you're looking to remix that royalty-free music or that purchase license music, that's where Sebastian and his team can have put this program together that you could do on your own. You don't need to pay them to do it. They give you everything to do on your own. So you're the DJ, you're the mixer, you're the composer. You get a chance to really make those tweaks around. Hold on here. Momentum, depth, and power.
Power. That's the one. Well done,
All
Jim.
right.
Yeah.
I was going to say something else. I'm like, wait, that wasn't even mentioned. That wasn't close.
Yeah.
Momentum, depth, and power. So if you find value in this, type in power below, right? And if you really, really want to get more educated or have a clear understanding for whether it's you, your team, your clients, you may be looking to do a webinar around this, definitely click the link below. Reach out to Sebastian. More than happy to discuss a few things with you. And our biggest thing with these episodes, Sebastian, is education for our high-level users.
Yeah.
Because everyone's moving so fast, and
Yeah.
they're leaning on what's specific to high level, what's specific to the community. And, you know, there's wealth of information out there, but there's nothing like the community we have. So I want to say thank you for taking your time. I know there's a big time difference. Just jumping on here and educating us. Thank you for accepting my invite to talk a little bit about your program, because like you said, it's hard if you don't see it or experience it, but I think you did a great job to paint.
Thank you.
To learn a little bit more. And I think it's the biggest thing here is for our audience. Don't lose your creativity because the fear of.
Yes.
So you'll gain more creativity as you're more knowledgeable. So any last remarks you want to include, Sebastian, before we wrap this up?
I think you put it beautifully. I think that's exactly it. I think there's something wonderful about taking ownership of the creative process and not having it as yet another boring post-production process. You know, you can hopefully, and again, not wanting to sell this too much, but you know, you can rediscover a kind of an element of fun, an element of true creativity, which I just want everyone to experience because it is wonderful.
Yeah, and when I got to get to know you a little bit, your passion for music, your passion for the creativity of it, man, it really it came right to me, and I wanted to make sure we share that story with our community. Sebastian, thank you. To our audience, thank you. Below, there's also a link. If you've come across High Level by chance, there's a 30-day free trial link below. Go ahead and get involved. Learn about High Level. You'll see what we have to offer, and you'll be able to see the rest of our podcast episodes that we have on our channel. Until next time, thank you. Go High Level, and thank you, Sebastian and Film Show, for joining us for this episode. Till next time.
Pleasure.